I'm sure a lot of people already know who you are and that many of them consider you to be the devil himself. But could you please tell us who you are?
Okay, I'm Erwan le Breton. I'm working currently as the creative director of the Might and Magic brand at Ubisoft. I've been involved with the Might Magic brand for a little bit more than 12 years now. As soon as Ubisoft acquired the IP, at that time I was part of the editorial team, so we were in charge of various games at Ubisoft, various brands. Might Magic was one of mine when it happened to become a Ubisoft brand. And I was working at that time with two production teams, one dedicated to the game that would be Heroes 5 and the other to the game that would become Dark Messiah. And I was there originally as a consultant for the brand, the IP, how to enhance it or make it consistent with the Ubisoft standards, etc. So one of my recommendations among many were as to recreate the setting, the world for the Might Magic games, based on the fact that we had very few information on the former world that had been developed by New World Computing. We didn't have some sort of closing kit or Bible or knowledge shared between New World Computing and Ubisoft. On the fact that the community were still very alive at the moment, so we had identified community websites, etc., wikis, and we knew that the fans, there was a good chance that they knew the world and the lore better than we were. So I said to the team, it's better for you if you start from scratch, create your own universe, be in control. Otherwise you may disappoint their expectation, make mistakes, they will flame you, etc. So the head of the third-party studio, who was leading the production teams at that time, said to me, that's fine, all your recommendations are interesting, but we have nobody to help us create this brand new universe. It seems that you would help us do it, so why don't you join the team and help us with that? So I said yes, it was exciting. I hired a couple of writers and artists to start working on the world of Ashan. And then he said, for that to be effective, you need to be involved in the production, so you know our constraints and how we do games. So joined one of the projects with an operative role, so I became the associate producer of Dark Messiah to really understand what it was to create a video game for real and not being editorial, sitting in HQ and seeing it from afar. Then I enjoyed that very much too. So I did both in parallel, working on the lore and the universe on one side and being part of the production team on the other. And then I moved to the add-ons for Heroes 5. It was my first time as really a producer. Then on Clash of Heroes, again as a producer, and then Hero 6, again as a producer. And suddenly there were several Might Magic games being born within the third-party studio and also elsewhere at Ubisoft, for example at Blue Byte or at Chengdu or at Ubisoft Quebec. And so it was becoming something of the thing is becoming too big and hard to control. We have to create a team that will ensure that the brand is consistent with all these games. So we created what we call today the Might Magic reference team. That included me, but less as a producer and more as a creative director for the whole brand, in charge of everything related to content. Leslie Capillon, who is the brand manager, responsible for everything relating to communication, marketing assets, logos, style guide, etc. So really everything related to how we sell and promote our games. And Irina Carcina, and later Arnaud Frémont as community developers in charge of the community, because for Ubisoft, Might and Magic community is one of the, I'd say the biggest, because you have other brands that are very popular at Ubisoft, but the most active, the most involved in our games. So it was important for us to have a dedicated community developer.
Exactly does it mean to be the creative director of the Might and Magic franchise?
It means a lot of things. It means you're totally related to everything that's part of the content and the experience of the game. So it's obviously art and music and audio and game design and story, the lore of the universe. It's also about consistency of all the games together in terms of they're set in the same world, they belong to the same brand, they share a common DNA. Within a series, for instance the Heroes series, there is also a specific game DNA that you have to respect and you have to share with the teams As you know, probably there was a different studio behind each hero game. Heroes 5 was Nival, Heroes 6 Black Hole, Heroes 7 Limbic. So there must be someone capable of telling them, this is Heroes, this is what we learned with the previous title, this is what will help you make the next one. Because obviously the team changed, so that's part of the job too. Then you also have to act as the voice of the brand, be a sort of public relation face and voice for the brand in shows or in interviews. So it's also a part of the job. And then there is the strategy. Where do you want to take the brand? What is your vision for the brand as a whole? Might Magic, we consider it to be a world brand, a universe brand, a bit like Middle-earth. So Lord of the Rings for us, it's a story. The Hobbit is another story, but Middle-earth is the global brand, the umbrella brand. There may be other fantasy brands like Dungeons and Dragons that are more like a set of game rules, not really a universe. Others like Final Fantasy are more like an experience. You tend to find familiar things, the setting change, the rules may change, but the feeling, the spirit, the experience is similar from one fantasy game to the other. For Might Magic, really, we define it as this is the same world. All the games, one constant universe that's the same. So we now think of what kind of games would serve us, Ubisoft and the brand better. So what kind of games we want to do in the future? Do we want to go on the mobile platform? If yes, with which kind of game? Do we want to have a console version of Heroes, for instance? Yes, no. Do we want an open world, AAA, multi-platform RPG like Skyrim? If yes, how can we do it, etc. So that's the kind of strategic question we have. We share it with the brand manager, so not only me, and we share it, of course, with the top management at Ubisoft.
Could you tell us what Ashan represents, how it started, how it progressed, what problems you encountered, and what we should expect from it in the future?
So the first draft of Ashan was put on paper by what we call the core team, the original core team of the World Bible. It was essentially me, and there was a marketing guy from Ubisoft called Damien Moret, who's still working in the company. Also a lead writer, Richard Dansky, who's still working at Red Storm as the central Clancy writer, so now he's in the Clancy brand. But he was with us from the beginning, and we had a couple of artists, most notably Adrian Smith, whom a lot of people know from Warhammer or other fantasy IPs, and Olivier Ledroit, a French artist, quite famous for a comic book series called Chronicles of the Black Moon. So these were really the first people to define what the world of Ashan would look like and how it will feel like. We had a common background in RPGs, pen and paper RPGs, most notably RPGs with a strong universe/gameplay correlation. So for instance, RuneQuest or Call of Cthulhu or the World of Darkness, games like Vampire the Masquerade, etc. So that were our own benchmarks in terms of we want a universe in which the set of rules will reflect the world and vice versa. The world will be based around the set of rules. So the first thing we did, because Heroes was the first game to be developed and the most important one in terms of ambition at that time, before Dark Messiah was born, we had a hard look at Heroes and we said, okay, what can we take from this game that will help us create the world? So we had the factions, obviously. It was the first thing to come to mind, so we wanted to keep them and to define them strongly the way the World of Darkness games do. You know, each faction has a code, a symbol, a creed, a philosophy, some gameplay mechanics that make it stand out. So that's how we define the faction, really, with a couple of bullet points saying this is how they will play, how they will look, how they will feel. The player should embrace this faction because you share the philosophy, wear the t-shirt, the badge, the cap, and support the faction. This was the original idea. So factions were central. Second thing was the fact that we liked in the Might Magic game, and not only Heroes but also the RPGs, the fact that it was not stark and white, good and evil. It was more like shades of grey and exploring the fact that some good people could do very bad things for moral reasons and vice versa. So we wanted that. We felt it was mature. It was also trendy. When we were working on Ashan, it was the time when the Lord of the Rings movies were on the big screen, so high fantasy was hype, but at the same time the Game of Thrones books were rising in popularity. So dark fantasy, which really shades of morality, was also something that we felt was strong. And because we wanted the brand to last for 10, 20 years, we wanted to be this part of the fantasy trend. That's why also we removed everything related to sci-fi, because we felt it was dated from the 90s, very popular at that time. The lore of Warcraft is filled with sci-fi references, other games are from that period. So we wanted, no, we will be a 2003 plus game, so a universe, so we want pure fantasy. So these were the initial decisions, and a lot of others, but really to put it into a nutshell. Another thing that we shared within the creative team was the desire to make the world magic and filled with spirituality. For all of us, religion and the occult and hermeticism and spirituality was very important, and we wanted it to be felt in the world. So the symbols we used, the references to alchemy, to gnosis, to the Kabbalah are there, and they're real. And it was important for us to have them, to make the world deeper in symbolism and significance. So that's how we created Ashan, but then the first obstacle we faced was that Heroes 5 was being developed while we were working on the world. So we had to retro-engineer a couple of things from the original plot, the original creatures, etc. So the scenario in the end makes some sense within Ashan, but not always, not all the time. The resources, for instance, there's still the Mercury and Sulfur, because it was too late to change them to make them more Ashan-like. The Dark Elves are really much close, really very close to the ones from Warhammer, instead of being the Dark Elves that are really the Dark Elves in the world of Ashan, etc. So there were a couple of trade-offs for this project, because we arrived basically too late. And then we also faced, which is totally normal, the fact that the community was not Heroes and a couple of other Might Magic games. You will learn and love it, but it will take us time. We knew that from the scratch. Now it's been 10 years. We know that there are still people who say we hate Ashan, we don't like it, or we prefer the old universe. That's correct, and that's okay. You know, it's part of we all have preferences and taste and whatever, and we're used to things that may change over time. But we also are happy to find on the forums or in some websites, especially, for instance, Acid Cave in Poland, that some people dig the world of Ashan and are hungry for lore and are asking us questions and pointing out all inconsistencies they find in some of the games, because there are still some, even with our best efforts. So what we need, I think, now is something that will...
From a fan named Verker, in regards to the transition from the old universe to the new one. Why didn't you seek out for the Heroes 4 writers, Jennifer Bullard and Terry Ray, to continue Axios?
I have to say that at first analysis, when we inherited the world, the games from New World Computing and 3DO, was that we had no document, no Bible, no real contact. We knew about John von Kenegam. He was invited to participate in the development of Heroes 5. At that time he was busy. Have fun with it, basically. But we had no other names, no other contacts. We didn't, as you remember from my first question, I recommended to change the universe. So very fast people in the team, instead of looking for writers or game designers who were coming from New World Computing and 3DO, and trying to attract them to come and work in France, because that was also one of the main constraints. The Might Magic team was based here in Montreuil in France, and those guys were American, so it would have been maybe hard to attract them and say, come with your family and work here for us, because working from a distance, it's not so good for building such a task, you know, building a universe or a story or stuff. And so yeah, we made no real effort to contact those guys, to identify those guys, contact them, and try to find something interesting for them to come and work for us. My only regret was that later on, when we got to know the fans better, especially thanks to the VIP program, we met people like Julien Pirou, who were French, living in Paris, knew the old universe perfectly, and could have helped us with that a lot. So, but they came a little bit too late. Ashan was already established, and they had to adapt to our universe, bringing some references and Easter eggs and stuff from the old, but not being able to revert it, obviously, to the 3DO time.
It's been stated before that there will be only 9 main factions in Ashan. Is there no way around that?
There is a way. We've been discussing that recently with Julien. 9 has been our secret number, mostly for studios that work within the brand Might Magic, but are not directly connected to us, the IP team. it was a way for us to prevent them from saying, hey, I've got this faction of alien-looking beings that are shapeless and have a hive mentality and are coming on asteroids on the world of Ashan to destroy it, and they're called the Zorgs, or something like that. So we wanted to avoid this kind of, no, please stop it. The factions are well established in the lore of the universe, so we don't want anything anymore, any new faction. But internally within the IP team, with people who are super familiar with Ashan and know how to respect it, we already discussed the possibilities to have faction number 10, faction number 11, and we have interesting leads, so maybe they will come in the future. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Since we're discussing factions, after the Necropolis reveal, the community expressed major dissatisfaction in regards to the undead, specifically about the design and inclusion of some units from Hero 6, about the intrusive symbolism of an overly religious cult, about the addition of a spider as an undead unit, and about the town with spider legs, which led to the term Spiderpolis or Arachnopolis. Overall, people felt that the criticism of Necropolis at the time of Hero 6 has been ignored. How did you react to all this feedback, and did it inspire some change for a better approach to the undead faction inside the Ashan universe?
The fact that the undead are related to the spider is really part of everything I was telling you about how we created Ashan, which is for each faction we wanted a strong philosophy, creed, etc., history, and also a symbolism. So each faction has connections to symbols from mythology, from real-world magic, if you consider alchemy and stuff to be real-world magic, to folklore, etc. For the necromancers, when we defined them early on, we said we don't want necromancers to be like in many other fantasy worlds, just guys who have been molested when they were children and now hate the humanity as a whole and just want to turn everyone into zombies. We don't want that. So instead, we wanted them to have a faith in something, like a creed, something to fight for. And we said they will be on the side of order, so they will be totally opposed to the demons. That's also a radical change. They're not bad guys that sometimes ally with demons, like in Heroes 4, for instance. They will be really their antagonists. So that's one change. The second change we wanted was let's consider them to be Buddhists. That may come as a surprise, but Buddhists in the way that they consider that reality is an illusion and it's not here to last. It's ephemeral. So they're afraid of this world that is shifting, changing all the time, especially people aging, getting sick. What they search is perfection, eternal perfection. And they fear death, basically. So that's why they want to become immortal. That's why they study death magic. They want to be unchanging, perfect, absolute. They don't want to feel something like the Buddhists, because they know that if you love someone, someday you will suffer grief because they will be sick, or they will die, or they will quit you, they will leave you. And so they kill their hearts by becoming undead. They become alabaster statues and changing. The vampires, it's their highest form. They never age, they never change, they don't have any feeling anymore, so they consider themselves not dead, eternal, immortal, but away from any kind of suffering. So we call them the morbid Buddhists. And they're a little bit on the Zen side, the ascetics, etc. So that was one thing. The other thing was, okay, what will be their higher principle, their goddess? But because they serve order, they are religiously turned towards Asha. Asha has three faces: life, death, and destiny, fate, what lies in between. And we identified Asha with a kind of spider goddess, weaving the universe like a cobweb, spinning and threading and cutting the thread of human life. So we had all these images converging, number 8 being sacred to her. So it's the number of order in our world, it looks like a cobweb. So all those symbols converge, and we say, okay, they love her death aspect, obviously, that's what they worship. So this death aspect would be better represented by a spider. We all imagine the Black Widow with the skull on its back. The number 8 became important to them. We imagine this story of the fact that they had to drink the venom of the spiders to kill themselves internally. So basically, yeah, they die in the process, but the venom is magical. It flows within their veins, mixed to the blood, and it makes them super powerful. So if they have only little portions of the venom, they just age slower and they gain some kind of power, so they become what we call the lich. if they really take a huge quantity of venom in a specific ritual, they really die and are reborn again, but this time as vampires. So it's super powerful. So all this converged together. We said, okay, spiders, necromancers, Buddhists. This is the concept for this faction. So it's a little bit different, for instance, that the Dark Elves of Dungeons and Dragons that worship a spider goddess, but for them it's more like assassination and being evil and stuff. For us, it was really this spider that weaves the web of destiny, can cut it to kill you, but just for you to be reborn again, etc.
Thank you very much for this very detailed answer, but you didn't quite reply to the kind of negative feedback a lot of fans expressed towards this idea.
So we had negative feedback that were expressed on the forums from certain websites, etc. That's true. Now is our reaction to that was the fact that it was a confrontation of creative vision. So we totally accept the fan feedback when it comes to making the experience better for them in terms of playstyle and having a heroes game that's as close as possible to the original formula, because we ourselves admit that we are weak on certain points, so we have failed to deliver some features, and it's especially true for Hero 6 that had a lot of let's say that was not as good as we wanted it to be when it was released. And so all kinds of criticism that were made on the game systems and on the rules or on the online connectivity. When it comes to we don't like your world because the spiders and the undead for us make no sense, our only answer is to say for us it makes a lot of sense and we just like it, and so our team is behind it and that's the way it is. So the answer to the current criticism on the Necropolis faction Hero 7 have been answered a little bit differently. What we took for granted was the fact that people were righteously outraged to see that models really were too close to Hero 6. So that's okay for us. We say we knew that from the start, we expected this kind of reaction. It happened, it was bigger than what we expected, so we take note and we will do something to go into your direction. So that was the first thing. The second thing about the spiders, we had a lot of internal debates. Of course, me being the representative, I mean the voice of Ashan, I said the spiders are here to stay. Now I have no problem if they are tuned down in Hero 7, but it's a question of then choosing the undead creature. You have the possibility to change, because it's also a question of resources, time, etc. So for now, it seems that two creatures will change, and it's the Lich and the Vampire. So it's not the spider. So the spider will stay. Could have been the spider being changed to something else, but then they were only able to change two creatures. So, but I would have not been at all against the idea that the spider was replaced by, I don't know, a zombie dragon, or a zombie dragon there is one already, but a zombie dog or whatever. You know. So that was not, I'm not enforcing the fact that the necromancers should really all wear those spider thing all the time and it should be super obvious. What I'm saying is, in Ashan, the necromancers are related to the spider cult, and spider symbols and spider attributes should be there somewhere, even if it's, let's say, tuned down, which is okay, especially because there is, in the stories that are told in Heroes 7, there are things happening at a time where Necropolis is part of the Academy faction. They're still just wizards worshipping the death, studying death magic. At that time, they're not super religious, so they're just wizards dressed in black with undead guys. And so it's possible to have within Ashan a time where Necropolis is not spider friendly. It happens later with Belketh and the Hierophant of the spider cult having a conflict, because Belketh himself was not such a religious man and angel, not man. And so, yeah, it's possible to have necromancers that are despiderized. So I guess in Heroes 8, maybe they will choose a time period to please the Heroes fan that dislike spiders, when it's only the black wizards from the Academy faction.
Okay, neural computing era Heroes had a more medieval fantasy approach to visuals and models, while Ashan has a more high fantasy one. In Hero 6, this was so exaggerated, it even made people hate their favorite factions, notorious examples being Dungeon, Necropolis, and Heaven. However, we see that Hero 7 made a lot of progress, especially with Heaven and Academy, the adventure map, and the battle map. The question is, wouldn't Heroes be better off if it went back to the visual style of medieval fantasy as seen with the old universe as opposed to the high fantasy of Ashan? Okay, sorry.
That's okay. Again, I think it's a question of creative vision. A lot of times journalists and fans ask me if I'm more might or magic, and I always answer I'm more magic. So I think the high fantasy under theme of Ashan, or strong theme, comes from that, and comes from the artist we've been working with. Adrian Smith being very mightish, because he likes to draw brutes and warriors and stuff, but always with things that don't feel realistic. And Olivier Ledroit, for those who know what he's doing, is super high fantasy, super baroque. Richard Dansky shared my view on everything has to be magical somehow. And so we really wanted the world to feel magical. The keywords we use when we describe Ashan and Might Magic to teams working on a project are make it epic and enchanted, which is basically might and magic. But these are the two words we use a lot. So it means go crazy, make it not realistic at all, the laws of physics don't apply, everything is huge, has been built by titans, is floating on the air, people wield magic every day, the dragons used to be real and they were working on Ashan, and they were incarnations of the elemental principles and the cosmic forces, so it's huge. So that's our vision of the world, and we try to translate it into the art direction and the stories we tell, and even the music we play. So this is part of it. The fact that it was tuned down in Hero 7 again is based on two things: fan reaction to Haven faction, especially. That's the one in which we really had a lot of feedback, saying too many light spirits. We want a more medieval knight faction, and that's okay. You can play it like that, especially with the choices that we made with the story of Hero 7, the fact that we chose a faction that's more brutal because they're the Wolf Duchy, and these are the warrior guys. So again, you can do a lot of things in Ashan. You can do a story that's very low-key in terms of magic and fantasy, set in a village with no super magical powers, and only a couple of ghosts and ghouls, and make it a horror story even. That's totally possible. But now if you want to talk about the Holy Empire as a whole, and the fact that there's a civil war going on, you have to put the big guns into the equation, so it means a lot of magic and stuff. You were mentioning the fact that for you Academy is less high fantasy than the other factions of Hero 6, for instance. But what is interesting is that the vision we had of Academy, of the new lineup that's currently in Hero 7, the design of the creatures, etc., we decided it at the time when we were working on Hero 6. So it could have been part of a Hero 6 add-on or Hero 6, the original game. Instead, it was, as it was not in the game, we kept it for Hero 7. So depending on the faction, they're more or less magical. They're more or less, let's say, the stronghold, for instance, in Hero 7, they're really down to earth and huge creatures, the return of the behemoth and stuff. So that's how we go. As long as it's, as I was saying, epic and enchanted, and some factions are more enchanted than others. Expect the elves, for instance, to be really enchanted. That's how they were designed. Yeah, I'm happy with that.
Okay. One aspect people very much hated about Hero 6 was the color coding of factions. What's the approach of Hero 7 in regards to the subject?
A lot of discussions with the team on this respect. The color coding is really a pet peeve of mine. It's something I'm pushing. It's because apart from all the everything I told you about, for me a faction is like even like a soccer team. You know, they have their colors and their logo, so they have to wear it. So that's how I envision things. It comes from my background in playing those RPGs. It also certainly comes from the fact that I play Warcraft and Starcraft, and it's how it is in these games. So I really want factions that are super specialized and super visible, and you can really have the art with all the creatures from the faction, and you feel it's unified. In the 3D New World Computing Might Magic games, it was more like a motley crew. A lot of colors, and sometimes you consider the creatures and okay, they're part of the same faction, why not? And the next hero, they could change allegiance. That's not how I envision my world and its consistency. But again, we had feedback from the community about the fact that all the purple elves or dark elves were boring, which is true, and I recognize that too. It was really a faction that really felt too much homogeneous. So when we were discussing with the Hero 7 production team, we agreed that there will be more variety of colors within a single faction, as long as the main color and symbol was present.
Are you aware that most followers of Ashan are not the ancient followers of Heroes? And how do you feel that maybe some fans, a huge amount actually, felt like they were let down?
It's not something I really strongly feel. It may be true. I have no real hard evidence in terms of figures or when we monitor the forums, the communities, one of the job of Arnaud, but we've been doing that for years. The kind of post-launch survey that we make with the community.
You are aware of Horn of the Abyss, WOG, all these very active parts.
Exactly. So I know a lot of people regret the Ancient Universe. The only way for me to say we can do something for you is to leave more room to Julien. You will ask questions to him later. But he has my blessing to bring back things from the old universe and Ashenize them. So not everything.
You mean like try to have a better coherency with both?
More like paying tribute to the Ancient Universe. So it's not putting the two of them together and make them fit, because that would be awkward. But more like if you can bring something that was great in the New World Computing universe and make it great and consistent in Ashan, I'm totally happy with that. And I hope the fans like it.
I hope too.
Yeah, but that's the only compromise I can make, because once again, Ashan is my baby, so to speak. I'm not the only father, but and my job is to make sure it's cool, it's exciting, and I invite you to enjoy it. But I cannot force you to do it.
A question from Lizard Warrior, who unfortunately could not attend the event today. The visual quality of the town screens is lacking. They have the same perspective, there is always a bridge over a big chasm and an incomplete wall, and overall town screens received little love when they were made. Do you think that these complaints are justified, and if so, what will you do about the issue?
You can always improve artworks, especially town screens. We've tried it hard with Hero 6 when we did the town screens that came with a patch, not the original ones, but the ones that came with a patch. We try hard with the Hero 7 town screen. The only thing I can say for sure is wrong in this statement is the fact that little love was given to the town screens, because the team, the briefings and the debrief and the feedback and the artists doing them are not like doing a job that they hate, and they're being underpaid to do it. So it's really a lot of people trying to do their best. As I can say, you can always do better. You could have more talented artists. You could have. The only thing for me that is lacking in how we do town screens, but it's a question of priorities. I would love to work with real architects, people who are urbanists, people who could say this town is functional, it could work. Even though we know we have buildings that make no sense, like hiring cyclopses. But I think with working with a consultant that's specialized in urbanism, we could have town screens that feel more real, credible, etc. But that's not priority number one in the development of Heroes for sure. We have other subjects that are more important to tackle, and money is better spent elsewhere. In terms of visual quality, there are some town screens in Hero 7 I really love. I really like very much. The Stronghold one, for instance, is one of my favorite. Others, like the Haven ones, I'm a little bit disappointed by them myself, but it's probably because it was the first town screens to be created, so they were still trying to perfect the idea of how to make a nice animated 2D town screen.
Do you know if town screens were outsourced projects?
Some of the artists working on the town screen, especially some of the buildings, it's outsourced. But the briefing, feedback, and overall art direction is done as a joint collaboration between people from Ubisoft and people from Limbic, especially the art director of the project, who really considers Stone Screen as being his big artwork, like the meat on the table for lunch.
Let's talk about the Shadow Council a bit. Do you think that it proved beneficial for Hero 7? What about the VIP group?
VIP group was great. We started it in Heroes 5, not really officially until the very end of the project. It was official from the start in Hero 6. I think we learned a lot from the VIP group in Hero 6, but as I told you before, the final game was not what us and the VIP fans wanted to deliver. So on both sides there were frustrations. Fortunately for us, the game was still appreciated by many and a commercial success that allowed us to do Hero 7, so it's good, the add-on and stuff, but yeah, it's not the Hero 6 of our dreams, neither me or the guys at Ubisoft or even the guys at Black Hole or the VIP fans. But for Hero 7, enlarging the VIP concept to turn it into the Shadow Console, for me that's great. That's something we really wanted to do very early in the development of the Heroes games. And it's super beneficial. Everything we read, everything we discuss with you, every kind of feedback we get, it's totally valuable, either to confirm that we have a solid vision and that we have to stick to it, or that sometimes we are wrong and we have to admit it. The team is really the team at Ubisoft and at Limbic. They really wanted this to be an important part of the development of this game. For us, it's the main innovation. As you know, Hero 7 is super conservative in things that are really, wow, creative team going crazy in this game. But the fact that they produced the game, they developed the game with this open development concept is really new to everyone. We're really a pilot project at Ubisoft. Limbic, it's their second time. They tried it out with Might Magic 10 and now they're pushing it one step above with Hero 7. And really, we all learn a lot from that. For Heroes 8, we'll certainly redo it the same, because we know it's really important. And everything we take from you, even if sometimes we take it with a grain of salt, like no more spiders, okay. But frankly, the feedback is really useful to us all.
Well, you kind of said that Heroes 8 will probably include it, so I'm just going to go with, should we expect Ubisoft to continue investing in these platforms, meaning the open development, the VIP group, and keep communicating with the fan base?
Definitely. That's part of the DNA of the brand, at least Hero. But for Heroes, definitely, the fan-centric, community-centric experience is part of the DNA of the brand now.
How many people do you think have participated to the development of Heroes 7 with the Shadow Council?
How many players?
Yeah.
Just one thing. C'est bon? Je dis les chiffres ou c'est secret? Il n'y a pas de Leslie, il n'y a pas un? Les active users. Je peux? Il n'y a rien de. Sorry, it's always a question of corporate policy. Some figures, I cannot say them. Considering if we look at the Shadow Council, two figures I can give you is we have 200,000 committed users, meaning people who post, comment, vote. And that's a huge chunk of the total population of Heroes players worldwide. And we've had 7 million pages viewed, which is absolutely hallucinating if we compare it to other Ubisoft websites. It means those guys come back regularly, stay for long, and read a lot of pages, basically. So they're really active. They're not just liking a couple of comments. Yeah.
Okay, what can you tell us about the partnership between Ubisoft and Limbic? How do they compare to the other studios you contracted before?
We've had 3 studios working on the Heroes brand, plus a couple of others on other projects. What I'm very proud of, happy about, is that I've been involved in all the Might Magic projects so far, and all the external studios we've been working with have been very good partners. If we split with Nival, it was because they wanted to do something else. Basically, at that time, Allo's online, so they felt that the future was in online games, free-to-play games, the mobile scene later on, etc. So the typical retail product like your Heroes title was not strategic enough for them in terms of company growth. So it was not because they considered that Might Magic was a brand that was without any appeal, and it was not because we considered that Nival were no good. So it was really more like it was nice spending some time with you, bye bye, good luck. And with Black Hole it was a little bit more difficult. There were some business issues between Ubisoft and them in a breach, so they were unable to support the game post-launch. And that too added to the fact that the game was not super good when it was released, because it was lacking a couple of patches and support that could not be done at that time. But all throughout the production time, there were fans who were invited in Budapest to Alpha, so it was around the same time as now for Heroes 7. It was also a press tour, and they can tell you that we were friends with them. We were really having a shared vision. We were working together in a very friendly spirit, very enthusiastic about the project, etc. And it has been like that until the very, very last moments when it became obvious that we would not continue working together, but mainly because of a contract that could not be signed. Not because, the production teams could not get along well together. We were still trying to do our best to ship the game in the best possible solution. And Limbic, they were a support team on Hero 6, working mainly on the online part of the game, and they helped us a lot with patching the game and creating the adventure pack and supporting the add-on of Hero 6, then working on Might Magic 10, now on Hero 7. So it proves that they were very good partners, and that we work with a shared vision, especially related to the Shadow Council concept. So the fact that we want the fan input and we're ready to accept it. And I hope this time that they will stay long enough for them to work on Heroes 8 after Heroes 7. But you never know. Business opportunities may appear for them that will drag them away from us. It's part of life and of the world we live in, the industry. So,
have there been any hot topics during the production of the game with Limbic? Have you been discussing about?
It's been really smooth sailing, which means almost like a love story, because from the start we had a common vision. And the key events of the project for now have been the reveal of the project at Gamescom, an internal presentation that happened a couple of months ago, when we showed Hero 7 to the whole of the business and marketing teams at Ubisoft, and today, press tour and the fans being invited, and all these three events have been success, happiness, drink champagne together, etc. So, frankly, everything is going well.
Has there been anything you learned from the production and feedback of Hero 7 so far?
Frankly, I was saying the Shadow Council is a valuable source of feedback for us. So I think little by little we nail down what it means for us, because what we want to provide is the best of Heroes. I know it's a very ambitious goal, but we really cannot make it without this concept, without this open development philosophy, without having the fans challenging everything we do. So I think at the end, when Heroes 7 is released and later the expansions, we will really have all at Ubisoft and Limbic learn what it means to make a best of Heroes. The only thing that we need to get confirmation also is when the game is released, is it a best of Heroes for all our players or only the engaged ones? So we'll have also some surveys and a way to ask the people who are what we call the silent majority, so the guys who buy Heroes games and play them, but are never on the forums and community websites, or are not really super active on the Shadow Council. Did you like it too? How? Etc. So this kind of information we'll get it later.
Okay.
Yep.
should Hero 7 enter with should a Hero 7 expansion enter development? What would you like it to include?
Basically, we have a solid offer for Hero 7, the core product. Not everything has been revealed yet, because we still need to talk about the future topics soon enough. But when you know what will be in the game when it ships, there's very few things that we may wish to add in the expansions. So again, the Shadow Council will prove valuable at that time, because apart from new factions and new storylines, what kind of new features will be needed will be certainly discussed on this website after Hero 7 is released. So it will help us decide what kind of content we want to put in the expansions.
And speaking of releasing the game, do you have a date you could present us?
Not yet. We are moving towards alpha. So for those who know about video game production, that gives you a fair idea that the game will be released in 2015. That's what we can say today. So it means more the end of the year than in 2 months. But we don't have a specific date.
To us about what expectations do you have, both from the game and the fan base, certain reaction?
Something I said to the press yesterday, they were asking a similar question, and I said to them, really my main objective with Hero 7 is for people who have played all the Heroes games, are really long-time fans of the series, to say, congratulations Ubisoft, this is your Hero 3, this is your best Hero so far, and you're really nailing the formula, you're very close to achieving perfection. And for those who discovered Heroes with Heroes 5 or Heroes 6, it's the best Heroes I've played, ever. That's really what I expect from this game. I hope it will be a reality. For now, the way the game progresses and what we can feel from on the Shadow Council, we're on the right track. We're moving in the right direction.
Okay. Thank you very much for the
Thank you.
interview.